Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle. I am the owner of Buffalo Occupational Therapy, which is an outpatient occupational therapy clinic in West Seneca, New York. We primarily treat neurological rehabilitation, so neurological conditions, whether it's post-stroke, a post-traumatic brain injury, or you've been diagnosed with a progressive neurological disorder or a progressive neuromuscular disorder. That's what we specialize in. I am coming to you today to discuss Medicare Advantage plans. Medicare Advantage plans are a huge thing, especially in New York. Many people love having insurance and love utilizing those benefits. This is not the same throughout the United States, but New York especially, we have a lot of insurance companies and a lot of commercials, a lot of marketing towards older adults, especially for Medicare Advantage plans. MAP plans are usually $0 copay or $0 monthly payments or low monthly payments, where they boast that everything will be covered for a low copay and you won't have to pay out of pocket and you won't have to pay much out of pocket for the monthly fee. Most of them are $0 copays, but they don't actually go into explaining different scenarios. How it's applicable to this conversation is that we treat a lot of individuals, again, after these major events where they lose a lot of function. It's nothing like you can come in once a week and see a lot of results. You have to come in multiple times a week for 12 to 16 weeks following one of these events or more, right? Some of these are lifelong. And if they're progressional or progressive disorders, you'll be seeing that therapist probably off and on for the rest of your life. Now, what they're not telling you is how this is going to impact your rehab benefit. There are so many therapists that are in therapy clinics that don't want to work with insurance plans anymore, that decrease your ability to get quality care because they're not paying insurance. They're not paying for your rehab. What's happening with these Medicare Advantage plans is that you're paying zero to nothing out of pocket monthly, but then if you have a stroke, if something happens, which every year you get older, you have more of a risk of being diagnosed with some of these disorders, right? So Parkinson's, as you get older, you have a higher risk of being diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, any form of that type of diagnosis, progressive neuromuscular disorders. That just tends to happen. Now, if that is the case, if you have a stroke, if something happens and you need rehab, you are paying out of pocket per session in outpatient therapy. And copays are not cheap. Not many of them are giving you like a $5, $10 copay. You are paying $35 to $50 per treatment, per session, per discipline. Okay, so what that means is if you have an event that limits your ability to walk, limits your ability to use your arms, limits your ability to swallow or speak, limits your ability to think clearly, or affects your memory in some way, you are going to need PT, ST, OT, okay? All three disciplines. Now in OT, neurological OT, there's no research that supports once a week coming in and just performing services and leaving. All research that shows that there's like hope for movement return, you're coming in 2 to 3 times weekly. Now add that to every session. I mean, that's $35 to $50 3 times a week for OT, $35 to $50 twice a week for PT, $35 to $50 3 times a week for speech therapist. That's $200 plus every single month that you or your loved one is going to have to pay if you want to see return of function. The insurance company isn't explaining that. They are preying on these high risk patients and they say, well, you've been relatively healthy all of your life, so odds are nothing's going to happen and you're not going to need this benefit, so you should take the $0 a month plan and save your money. Well, they're not telling you how it's going to affect you when you're at high risk for these heavy rehab oriented diagnoses. So now I have patients either unable to come to us for therapy because it's too much out of pocket for cash pay. We don't take their insurance plans because Medicare Advantage plans are popping up all over the place without verifying that they have providers participating with their plans before they market these plans to non-suspecting older adults and their caregivers. And also, you're expecting to have the therapy that you need so that you can walk again, so that you can move your arm again, so that you can speak again, so that you can drive again. And you're not going to be able to get it without paying $200 a week for 18 weeks. That's a huge problem. They are robbing people of benefits and they're taking all of the money. They are taking the Medicare dollars. They are cutting our rates in half. And so if Medicare pays X amount of dollars, insurance companies are cutting that in half and only giving therapists half of that. But here's the rub. You are paying 3/4 of that half. So if they're paying $50 per session, they are allowing $50 per session. They are charging you $40 to $50 copays of that $50 that they're allowing. So they're only giving us $5 to $7 per treatment and making you pay the rest of it. That's so wrong, and you should be very upset about that, because rehab is supposed to keep you out of the hospitals. Rehab is supposed to keep you out of these high-cost surgeries. But instead, they're putting prior authorization requirements on rehab. They're asking for notes for $40 reimbursements. They're without paying. So they're refusing to pay until you send in notes or submit a prior authorization request for one of the lowest paying reimbursements that they offer. And some of them, they're not even paying. They're making the patient pay the full copay. They're making it so hard to access preventative benefits so that they can save that money and pay for your falls when you enter an emergency room and have to go to the hospital. If something happens because you haven't had preventative rehab and you have to have a major surgery, they're funneling that money into reactive services instead of helping you get the therapy that you need to maintain function throughout your lifespan. If you have a progressive neurological disorder, they are preventing you from being able to access the amount of therapy that you need according to research and evidence-based practice. They're preventing you from accessing that without paying an insane amount out of pocket. And what they're not telling you is you could avoid this by not going with them, by not taking the Medicare Advantage plan. You can take your Medicare primary benefit. You can have a Medicare, you can be part and just have Medicare Part B be primary and have a supplement or a Medigap plan, which will pay the majority of it. Yes, you're paying $250 to $350 out of pocket a month. Yes. But individuals who have these major traumas or individuals who have progressive neurological disorders, you need to have the therapy. So you may be paying that much out of pocket and you may not even have the need for it right now, but what if that happens? Go with Medicare Part B and supplement insurance so that you are not going to be restricted by what these Medicare Advantage plans are doing to you. So I have patients coming in that have a Medicare Advantage program and they're paying $120 per week in copays out of pocket because they need that to maintain their level of function. If they were to switch to Medicare Part B with a supplement, they would not be paying that out of pocket. So yeah, they're paying $20 a month for their Medicare Advantage plan, but they're also having to pay $400+ a month for their therapy because their insurance company never explained the benefits of rehab and the benefits of utilizing rehab, especially in older adults, to maintain their residence throughout their lifespan. Therapy is meant to keep people out of assisted living facilities and skilled nursing facilities because the risk of decline in those institutions are extremely high. Research has already shown that is something that you want to avoid if at all possible. So rehab in the community in outpatient services has been created, and we've been equipped and we've been trained to address every level of function, every deficit that arises with different diagnoses at different ages, to ensure that you stay out of the hospital, you stay out of assisted living facilities, and you stay out of nursing homes, because they are not equipped in staff, in approaches, in just, I mean, they're just not, we saw that through COVID-19. They are not equipped for overall wellness. Yes, they are there for a reason. Yes, but aging in your home is so much better, especially when you undergo a progressive, you get diagnosis of a progressive neurological or neuromuscular disorder like Alzheimer's or in other related dementias, or inclusion body myositis, or any of that Parkinson's, whatever these diagnoses are that are going to have a progression. Wouldn't you rather age in your own home? After a stroke, wouldn't you rather get rehab by living in your own home and accessing to those services versus having to go and get rehab in an institution that is not familiar to you, that increases your risk of develop other acute conditions, right? Wouldn't you rather do all of that in home? The insurance companies are not building their plans to support that, and that's the problem. So I encourage you, as we head into open enrollment starting in October is the only time that, for the most part, you have other qualifying life events. But for the most part, if you have been trapped into a Medicare Advantage plan, or you're locked in, you are locked in for the year. So you have to, during this time, you have to look at your options. You need to sit down with somebody who is pragmatic, who is outside of the situation and can run through different scenarios with you. Make sure that you're not just sitting down with one insurance company representative who has been trained to funnel you into their services, because they're not telling you, and they're not health professionals, they're not telling you what could happen and what you're actually signing up for. They've just been trained to get you on board with them. So make sure that you are educated when you're going in to sit down with somebody, especially as it comes up in October and you have the freedom to make the change. Medicare Advantage plans are not for everybody, and you need to know what it is that you are doing so that you can make sure that if something happens to you, you have access to the rehab that you need to increase function or maintain function with whatever life might throw at you. All right, so I'm very passionate about that. I am sick of seeing the injustice happening with my patients unable to access care. I think it's horrible. And I'm just trying to get the word out so that you can make the right decision for yourself or your loved one. If you're a caregiver, you need to know what this actually is happening, that insurance companies aren't paying for rehab, and they're making it very difficult for you to access this crucial benefit, stay out of the hospital and stay in your home despite what you may face. Okay, thank you for listening to this full video. If you want more information, definitely feel free to private message us on Buffalo Occupational Therapy. We can help to arrange that conversation. But thank you very much and have a great week.